Weather Service, Central Pacific Hurricane Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. Press conference for the update of 5 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, Hurricane Douglas. Again, my name is Chris Brenchley. I'm the director of the Central Pacific Hurricane Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. Hurricane Douglas continues to move west-northwest towards Hawaii, and a tropical storm warning has now been issued for Kauai County. The current location of Hurricane Douglas is about 240 miles east of Hilo, which is also about 430 miles east-southeast of Honolulu. The maximum sustained winds are presently at 90 miles per hour. And the present movement is towards the west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. So even though Hurricane Douglas is still a little ways out, it's rapidly approaching the state, and we expect that there's possibility of having impacts as soon as late tonight. So a summary of the watches and warnings that are current. In addition to the tropical storm warning that has been issued for Kauai County, including the islands of Kauai and Niihau, we have a hurricane warning remaining in effect for Oahu. A tropical storm warning is in effect for Hawaii County and Maui County. And a hurricane watch remains in effect for Hawaii County and Maui County. So when we talk about the warning, hurricane warning means that the hurricane conditions are expected somewhere within the warning area within the next 36 hours. And a tropical storm warning means that the tropical storm conditions are expected somewhere in the warning area within 36 hours. The watches mean that conditions are possible within the watch area within the next 36 to 48 hours. So as we watch Hurricane Douglas continue to near the main Hawaiian Islands, the forecast track continues to bring Hurricane Douglas, the center of Hurricane Douglas, very close, beginning later tonight and during the day Sunday and into Sunday night. Gradual weakening is expected over the next couple of days. However, Douglas is still expected to be near hurricane strength when it passes near the islands. We can't overemphasize enough that the exact track continues to have some uncertainty. And so a slight change in the forecast track would bring direct impact and landfall across any of the Hawaiian Islands, especially ones that are very close to the track. So hazards that will be affecting us were expected to affect us as Hurricane Douglas passes through the state. The first thing we talk about is wind, hurricane force winds, and even tropical storm force winds can create quite a bit of damage. As we look back upon similar hurricane weakening to a tropical storm, which made landfall on the Big Island, that was Isel in 2014, and the damage that we saw around that area where the landfall occurred. Again, a hurricane or even tropical storm force winds can cause major damage, and those possibilities of the onsets of those winds will be as early as early Sunday morning in Maui County, moving across towards Oahu later Sunday, and Kauai County Sunday night. For surf impacts, the winds will be generating very large swells, and as those swells reach the island's shores, we'll expect to have large surf. Surf heights over 15 feet on east-facing shores, but also we could have storm surge of 2 to 4 feet. And storm surge brings water above what the normal tides would be expected to bring, and those can affect land areas. So If you have an area that experiences a storm surge, expect that water will be able to rise up over the land in some of the beach and coastal areas. For rainfall, we'd expect that there's potential for 5 to 10 inches of rain across Maui County, Oahu, and Kauai County. And this type of heavy rainfall could result or would result in life-threatening flash flooding and landslides. It looks like Douglas will could produce 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the northern half of the Big Island, but at this time, it appears that the heaviest rainfall would be Maui County, Oahu, and Kauai County. That completes the update on Hurricane Douglas. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time. My colleague, Ashley Evans, Deputy Director of Central Pacific Hurricane Center, will assist in reading those questions off. Okay.
I'll start with question number 1. Earlier today, it was mentioned that there was an expectation that Hurricane Douglas would slowly take a more westerly direction. Is there still an expectation of that happening in the coming hours? Over.
Yes. Hurricane Douglas, the forecast track has changed very little over the course of today. The forecast still does anticipate a turn more towards the west as it reaches the state. And so it really depends on how far north it is, where that westerly turn will impact the state. If it stays a bit farther north and the center remains just to the north of the islands, or if we see a shift to the west sooner, and then it would impact a direct landfall over the islands.
Okay, Chris, we have a second question. Because the storm center appears to be moving north and east of the Big Island, Hawaii, is there still an issue with that county of having severe downsloping winds that was discussed yesterday? Does that risk still remain, or has it eased? Over.
No, there's still a risk anywhere where we have terrain, which is the entire state. All of the islands have terrain. And so there is a potential for getting downsloping winds in any location. And it really depends on a couple of factors. The center of the cyclone will dictate what the wind direction is at any one location. If the center goes north of the islands, we will get a westerly wind flow and then a southerly wind flow. And that will affect areas that see downslope winds from the west or the south. However, if the center impacts directly or goes to the south of the islands, then the downslope wind effect will be on the other side of the islands, where we typically will see trade winds causing downsloping. So it's very difficult to say precisely what area is going to see the downslope winds and what areas are not. The important thing is to remember and keep in mind that any areas could see these accelerations. And even if you're not in a mountainous area or downslope of a mountain, if the center of a hurricane, an eye wall, reaches your location, you will see very strong accelerated winds just from the storm itself. Again, the message here is that we still have enough uncertainty as to the exact track of Hurricane Douglas that we would message everyone to continue their preparations. There's not a lot of time left to prepare. And so those preparations that you do need to make, the remaining preparations should be rushed to completion as soon as possible.